Croeso, welcome back. We'll be hearing our last presentation of the day now from Dr. Adrian James, who's the President of the Royal College of Psychiatrists. He's going to set out some of the college's work on sustainability and also put into context how mental health services can be part of the solution. So I'll hand over without further ado to Dr. Adrian James.
Thank you, Delith. It's really great to be with you. Prynon da, and I wish that we were all together, but of course it's much more sustainable for us to be meeting online, and one of the things the college has found is that our online offer has been more accessible to people, obviously more sustainable, and the feedback has been fantastic. So that's one of the conversations that we need to have. I'm delighted to be joining you at your conference, and I'm so pleased that you've been concentrating on the climate change and the important issues for mental health. And this is a core issue for mental health. It's not just something that we have our moral responsibility as members of the community. It's a core issue for us. Climate change is a potent cause of mental illness. The evidence for that is growing and growing. And of course, the environment and the ecological diversity is important in relation to the care and recovery in relation to our patients and access to clean air. So this is a core issue for us, and the college really wants to play its part. Now, I think I'm going to share my screen. I hope that where am I? I think we've got this here, right. Okay, I can't seem to get it onto, you can see my slides. I can't unfortunately get it onto
we can see them. I think that if you press slideshow at the start, this has happened with a few of the, we're all getting used to being able to do this more and more, aren't we? Slideshow along the top, it says home insert, draw design, and slideshow is along to the right from that.
Oh, right, yes, here we go, right, yeah.
And then if you say from beginning, or if you say not now to that, and then from beginning over on the far left at the top of the screen. Just underneath the file icon, it says from beginning.
Oh, yep, got it.
And I hope I'm not misleading you. I hope that works.
No,
so,
sorry, just from beginning. Has that done anything?
No, if you just try one more. By the way, this happened, that this is just the nature of the technology, I think, that we're all grappling with. But if you try one more.
Unfortunately, I think I've got a shared screen here.
Well, we can see the slides that you have.
Okay, yeah, I'll crack on, shall I? And because I know that people are all busy and they've got other things that they need to do. So I just wanted to talk about the college's work on sustainability and make it clear that we want some action in this area. It's not about talk. As somebody said the other day, we want to be not only can do, but will do. So I'm halfway through my term as president of the Royal College, and I've got 4 priorities. One is parity between mental and physical health. The second is championing equality, diversity and inclusion. My third is workforce well-being, and fourth is a core priority of putting sustainability at the heart of all we do. And of course, sustainability comes into all of those things, into parity. There is a sustainability dimension into equality and diversity, and of course, workforce well-being. The climate change and eco-diversity is important in terms of workforce well-being, and of course, sustainability is core. So what are we doing? We're developing a sustainable college response to the climate emergency and ecological crisis. I've appointed 2 associate registrars for sustainability, Lisa Page and Jacob Kranowski. And in fact, we as a college appointed the very first Associate Registrar for Sustainability, Daniel Morn, and that was about 8 years ago. So we really wanted to be seen to be leading the way and being on the front foot here. We've got an RCPsych Sustainability and Planetary Health Committee. It involves all parts of the college. It's very important that we have engagement across the piece, along with, in partnership with users and carers, and of course our trainees. And we are members of the UK Health Alliance on climate change and work very closely with them. So in terms of eco-distress, the college did a survey in 2020 and found that the climate crisis was taking a toll on the mental health of young people, and 57% of child and adolescent psychiatrists were saying they were seeing children and young people who were distressed about the climate crisis and the state of the environment. And so we launched our first resource to support children and young people and their parents and those looking after them in relation to addressing the anxiety, the understandable anxiety that people were experiencing. And so this is our former chair of our Faculty of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, who's saying that the climate crisis is clearly affecting children and young people's mental health, and the younger generation are growing up with a constant backdrop of understandable fear and worry about their future and the future of the planet. And it's very important that we don't unduly pathologize this. This is an understandable reaction. We just need to do something about it. Of course, sometimes this will spill over into mental illness, and it's important that we're ready for that and we have a response to that as well. So we've launched a position statement. We have a sustainability strategy, beginning with the declaration of a climate and ecological emergency. We've launched our position statement, our planet's climate and ecological emergency. That was in May of this year. And we've made pledges as a college, and as well as for other organisations. We didn't want it to be all about saying everybody else has got to do something, but we're not going to do something ourselves. So one of the aspects of our position statement is the sort of knowledge gap. People often know that there is some connection between climate change and mental health, and they know they should be doing something about it, but they don't know what to do. So the climate change, pollution and biodiversity loss have created a health crisis, and it's imperative that psychiatrists are informed and they're actively engaged, that it can have a profound and destructive impact on our health, our physical and mental health, that there are particular implications for mental health. The link, for example, between particulate emissions and dementia is now becoming much clearer. We've known for many years that things like forced migration is a potent cause of mental illness and is caused by climate change. And of course, there's a disproportionate effect on the most vulnerable in society, and people with pre-existing mental health conditions, and people who are disadvantaged because of the particular population group that they belong to. So what about our own pledges? We've committed the college to an ambitious plan to by 2040 that we will achieve net zero carbon dioxide levels for the emissions that we directly control. At this very moment, one of our college buildings in London, that it's undergoing a refurbishment, and one of the core elements to that is to make sure that it's sustainable, it's eco-friendly. So all sorts of very exciting things going on there. I'm a very keen cyclist, so as part of that, we made sure that it's actually going to be not only possible to cycle to the college, but something that people will really want to do, because cyclists are welcome, that you'll have somewhere safe to park your bike, and you'll have access to showers, and if that's necessary. So it's very important that we make this something that people are drawn to, not something that people feel they have to do. and it's quite fun as well. I think sometimes all this work can be portrayed as being taking away lots of goodies and fun stuff, but actually, when you really look at it, actually the future is much better. It's much brighter when it's greener. So we're also promoting prevention in psychiatry. Clearly, if we can prevent mental illness, that's the ultimate sustainable issue. If we can prevent illness, we don't need to treat it. That's obviously better for the individuals themselves, but obviously in terms of the impact on our climate, that it's important as well. So we are working to develop a wider sustainability network, both within the college, within all our divisions and faculties and devolved nations, but also across the mental health world more widely. So we are creating sorry, I just lost my thing there. So we're supporting the creation of an alliance across mental health organisations, because this is not a one-off project. This is something that's going to go on clearly, obviously, for, well, forever, one would imagine. So we need to get together with partner organisations so that everybody knows what the issues are, they know what the evidence is, we can work together. It's got to be that collaboration, we can monitor together, and very importantly, we can see the impact on our patients. And it's very important that we empower patients to make informed choices in their care, and we know that the more patients are involved in making those choices, the more sustainable it is. So another matter that we're promoting is social prescribing and nature-based treatments. And again, the evidence base for these is growing. And at the moment, they are alongside more conventional treatments, but they do actually help in in recovery. There have been some fantastic studies, even looking at, if you compare somebody who has a balcony and it's bare, if you have lots of pot plants there, then actually it aids their recovery, and that's really very well established. In fact, this year I went to the Chelsea Flower Show to talk about social prescribing and the importance of nature-based treatments. In fact, there was a quote, there was a headline in the Times. I thought I might get into trouble for it, but I think that the headline says, the Royal College of Psychiatrists President says plants before pills, which wasn't exactly what I'd said, and in fact they did clarify it in the article, but I think it was a good headline. But so we're committed to this. So in terms of some of the other recommendations, I guess for NHS organisations across the whole of the UK, we feel that every NHS health organisation, commissioner and provider should produce a green plan by the end of 2021. Some have them, some don't. We should, every mental health provider organisation should develop and implement a biodiversity action plan, which examines greening of estates, buildings and care pathways, and establishes links with green care providers. And we should establish a network of people who provide green therapies and activities, so that we can engage with them in a very easy way. So in terms of medical education, academia and research, that research organisations need to ensure that future research in planetary health includes multidisciplinary studies examining how the mental health of different vulnerable groups are affected by climate-related hazards, pollution and biodiversity loss. We've petitioned the Medical Schools Council to ensure that the impact of the climate and ecological emergency that's within as a core part of the curriculum. And actually, we want to research organisations to establish and quantify the benefits of taking action against climate change, because we do need to grow the evidence in this area. And I guess for the UK government to prioritise a unified approach with sufficient resources to tackling the climate and ecological crisis across all aspects of government. This is not just clearly not a health issue, it's across the whole of government. At the moment, I'm due to be going to COP 26, and that I know that COP has got various sort of thematic days, and it does include across all government departments. And we feel that they should establish an authority that can lead on public mental health and preventative healthcare, and that we should be following the United Kingdom Health Alliance on climate change in relation to green recovery and the environment. So, and particularly in the response to the recovery after COVID. So what can the Welsh Government do? Well, we would very much like to reinforce the calls by the College in Wales for the Welsh Government to put sustainable development at the heart of policy in Wales, and that any decision taken on climate change, energy and transport must declare and consider the positive and negative mental health implications, and that the Welsh Government should explore making well-being the principal aim of its budget in order to meet the mental health needs of its population. So those are the things we want to support the College in Wales in calling for those. So that's really all I wanted to say. That's my 15 minutes up, and I'm very happy to take questions if we've got time.
Thank you so much, Adrian. That was fantastic. I am just waiting to see it. So I know that we've been saying to people throughout the day, by the way, that if they have any questions or reflections that come to them after the event, then if they put them in the chat or if they send them on email through, then we'll make sure that, the Royal College will make sure that the information pack that comes to delegates after the event will, if speakers are willing, that the speakers will have considered those questions, and we'll get back to people after the event as well. But if I may, we have been hearing a lot, and actually your talk then dovetailed really nicely with the previous talk from BJ Psych Journal, in terms of looking at workforce well-being, in terms of looking at empowering people. Is there one thing that you would like the people listening today to take, one action that you think that they could do in order to start to make a change, not just for the benefit of climate emergency and tackling that, but also for the benefit of their lives too? If there's one thing that you'd like them to do, what would that be?
Well, it's there are lots of things, but I mean, what would I say? One thing I would say, cycle to work. If you possibly can, cycle to work. I will sort of say that there are two things that just have sort of everything in them. One is good mental health, and one is cycling. It's good for your physical and mental health. It's good for the environment. It's a sociable thing to do. You part of a community. It's great to be arriving at work as part of a cycling community, and also very importantly that you engage patients in that as well. I've over the years gone out cycling with patients, so I would say cycle to work.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. And one of the main tensions that's come up throughout the day, and tension doesn't always have to be a bad thing, of course, but one of the rather than to use a less loaded word, one of the juxtapositions that's come up throughout the day is the fact that the feelings of whether it's anxiety or grief about the climate, the negative feelings that can be felt about climate emergency, that they are perfectly rational, and that it would be in so many ways counterproductive to try and lessen or to try and talk down the severity of the crisis in dealing with that, but that somehow alongside this sense of, yes, it's a rational response to feel climate anxiety or climate grief, as well as that we want to empower people. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that it's through acknowledging this that actually that's in a perverse way, that's how we empower people, by making people feel that they're not alone in feeling this way? But you know what, in order to start to actually do things and to do some of the amazing things that we've been hearing about today, maybe the first step is acknowledging that it's a rational response. And would it be helpful for politicians of all parties to and also just people in public life generally, to acknowledge, particularly talking to children and younger people, that this is a frightening and worrying turn of events that we're all facing, but we can do this together. Do you think that the tension I'm trying to get out, I suppose, is the fact that there is a rational fear to be felt, but somehow we need to acknowledge that fear and to work through it in order to be proactive?
I think you're absolutely right. I think we need to validate people's experience. I think firstly that we need to and say that it is justified. I mean, what we know about somebody who is extremely anxious about something, if you just say, just don't worry, or there's nothing to worry about, it really doesn't help at all. But what does help is to say, first of all, I really understand your thoughts and your feelings, but you, as in other types of anxiety, you need to give people a stepwise path so that they can see that the thing they're anxious about can actually be sorted. And I think up until now, particularly children, young people have felt there isn't enough being done, so that can't lessen their anxiety. If you say you acknowledge it, you accept it, but these are the steps we're going to take to move you in a positive direction, we know that reduces anxiety. And I think we haven't done enough. I mean, the Royal College of Psychiatrists hasn't done enough. I think politicians haven't done enough to give that reassurance based on action rather than reassurance based on just words.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, and that's a really good almost motivation for us all to take from this today. And it's something that some politicians in the world, I think that they do this a lot in New Zealand, and we were talking earlier about wellbeing economy governments. I know that the New Zealand government was one of the pioneering governments to start that network, that actually showing vulnerability is in some ways a strength, and acknowledging vulnerability, but then I feel that this is probably more of a problem for politicians, but I think it's generally a problem for society, that we are encouraged to think that if we're in roles of leadership or decision making or anything like that, that we can't possibly show vulnerability, but actually that can make the situation worse.
No, I think you're again absolutely right. I think people want to see the sorts of thoughts and feelings that they have. They want to see that their politicians can feel the same way, that they're real people, they have real emotions, and they see the world. I know lots of politicians, amazing people who really do, because their surgeries that they carry out, they in their personal lives, but also the people that they meet, they do understand what's going on, and to show some vulnerability themselves, I think people find that quite reassuring, because they say, well, there's somebody, I can see myself in those individuals, so I know they'll be thinking the sorts of things that I'm thinking, and that will make it more likely they might do something about it.
Thank you so much. And people are responding in the chat to what you're saying. Kate Dufton has said, I'm just going through the chat now, that when she was responding to what you were saying about the need to cycle to work or walking, that interesting how therapies and thinking and reflecting generally are long associated with walking as well as cycling. And Julie, I'm just trying to find what your surname is. Julie, okay, Julie, forgive me, your surname isn't coming up on my chat at the moment, but she's saying, wonderful day, thank you, great point from Dr. James. Politicians have simply not yet done enough to prevent climate anxiety rooted in an existential threat. Juliet Brown, forgive me, your name now has appeared on my screen, Juliet Brown. I think that's a very fair challenge. Dr. Adrian, thank you so much for your presentation, for being willing to answer these questions as well. And as I've said earlier, when people are reflecting on the points that have been raised, and there'll be, I think, just as many people as have been with us virtually today, just as that many people again have also signed up to have the recording sent to them later on. So I'm sure that there will be people who will be contacted, well, the team will be contacting you, asking for your reflections on some further points, and we'll really look forward to having them. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, and I look forward to getting some questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, Bob, for everyone, it only remains for me to summarise the day very briefly and to talk us through what is going to happen next in terms of outputs from today. I know that the Royal College of Psychiatrists in Wales will be publishing a report on the conference, and I've already mentioned, and I'll come back to this right at the very end as well, that I'm hoping to set up with politicians from other parties and with experts from other fields as well. I'm hoping to set up a cross-party group in the Senedd, so in the Welsh Parliament, that we can actually start to grapple with these issues and to push for changes at a Welsh Government level as well. Some of the varied but very interconnected themes that have come up today, we've been grappling with the idea of isolation versus the collective, of the role of creativity, the role of words, that stories that we not just tell future generations, but that we tell ourselves about our lives, about what we're doing, that can be actually really important. Yes, in terms of literature and in terms of how we communicate to one another, to ourselves, to younger generations too. I think the intransigence of hope has been something that has really come up as well. The concepts that we're talking about, every time we talk about climate emergency, and that word emergency, it can feel so overwhelming. The way in which climate change is framed in the media can be talking about graphs that have this tremendous scale. You know, when COP26 happens, there will be promises and pledges made by governments that will span years and years into the future. And it can seem overwhelming. And I think particularly for children, but let's be honest, for everyone too, it can be so overwhelming that we can lose the sense of the self and what we can actually do, and we can get lost in that. But if we allow it to be overwhelming, the way that things are framed, then it's when it would overwhelm us as society. And that's why we have this power to reframe the ways in which things like this are talked about, that things like this are dealt with, yes, politically, also socially, also in terms of psychiatry, in terms of how we can grapple with these issues together. We've heard lots of practical solutions, which I think have been so powerful. Yes, in terms of the little things that we can all do, but they collectively add up cumulatively. You know, in terms of cycling to work, in terms of what Anushka was saying earlier about singing in a choir, and not losing sight of the wonder of the world and what it is that we are hoping and making sure that we will preserve. That should be a motivation for us all. I want to really thank all of our wonderful speakers today. Thank you all for inspiring us, for motivating us, and for spurring us on. Yes, because as has been said, I think Catherine said it first in one of the morning sessions, this today is the start. We are going to be able to work together now, cross-sector and politically cross-party, in order to make sure that there are changes that come about. So I'm really excited about that, because I really do think that this is the start of something that we'll be able to build on this an awful lot. Thank you so much to Liz, Ollie and Annie, who have been helping so much in terms of, yes, organising today, but also behind the scenes, making sure that all of the screens come up in the right order and things like that. Thank you so much to all of you for everything. Thank you everyone who's asked questions. Thank you to the people who've come along and have been reflecting on things and who will be asking questions later as well. It's not going to be too late, so please do send thoughts in. I think that the Royal College's motivations for government, or the demands of government, or recommendations for government, that both Ollie and Adrian at the end there have highlighted in terms of well-being being a principal aim of budgets, and any climate change or transport or energy decisions needing to consider and report on what the mental health impacts will be, both positively and negatively. Those are really powerful. They're very specific, and I think that they're things that we'll definitely be able to call for, yes, the Welsh Government, and let's hope other governments will be able to follow suit to make as changes. And I think that the one thing that we want delegates to leave today feeling empowered, feeling that that collective endeavour in the face of the issue of climate emergency and working sustainably, that is something that we all can have a part to play in. So I'll leave you with this final plea that I'm hoping very much to work with the Future Generations Commissioner to set up a cross-party group in the Senedd. That is not just for politicians. We need to be having these conversations with people from so many different perspectives to bring together, to look at climate and well-being. And I think we'll be having a particular focus on young people's well-being, but we will really want to hear from anyone today who'd like to be involved. So please get in touch with me. I'll put my email address in the chat, and we'll make sure it's sent in the information pack that goes afterwards. But thank you all ever so much. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd, pawb sydd wedi bod yn rhan o heddi, everyone that's been part of what an inspiring and important day. And to use Catherine's words again, this is the start. This is the start of something. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you so much.